Yes, indeed, Ken Workington. Welcome, everyone, to a Saturday night at the Meadowlands. And we are joined by the young Ontario driving star, Doug McNair, who spent plenty of time in the air this weekend joining us here at the Meadowlands. What brought you to the Big M, Doug?
Well, I come down to see a good friend of mine, Tom Shea, and my dad sent a horse down to him, so he thought they wanted to use Campbell, but he's away this weekend. So he said, why don't you come down and drive a few? So that's why I'm here. And
you drove more than a few. I think you had 8 drives last night, maybe 7 or 8 drives tonight. You raced at Freehold this afternoon. Did you do any good there?
Yeah, I had a first, third, and a fifth there this afternoon. It was a good day.
Okay, so 1 win, that means 999 for your career. You're 1 away from 1,000 wins, and at 20 years old, you will be the youngest driver to reach that milestone. Do you predict it could happen here tonight?
Oh, it'd be very exciting if it happened here today, but you never know. I hope so.
Man, things have really taken off for you. I mean, to have 1,000 wins by age 20, if I do the math, by the time you're 50, you'll have won like 18,000 races. You've gotten a lot of seat time. You've made the most of your opportunities.
Yeah, it's a big thrill. Just living the dream right now. It's awesome.
Well, we all know your father, Greg McNair, a very respected horseman, one of the top trainers up in Ontario and also on the Grand Circuit as well. I'm sure he was a big influence to get you started in the business. Did you hang around the barn as a kid?
Yeah, I've always been there ever since I was born, and he was a big influence on me.
Now, when did you decide you wanted to be a driver?
Oh, I wanted to be a driver ever since I was little. I always thought I was going to be, but looking back now, I don't know how I ever thought I was going to be, because it's a lot harder than it looks.
Yes, it is. There's a lot more to it than most people realize. Now, you have to be 18 to get your license, so you probably started driving the day of your 18th birthday and got going.
Yeah, actually, the day that I got my official license, we took the guy off that was driving our horse that night, and I ended up driving that night.
Did you do any good? When did you get your first win?
That was the first win, yep, the first drive.
That's a pretty good way to get started. And the other thing that really helps, driving horses is a lot like shooting free throws or playing golf. The more you do it, the better you get. And up in Ontario, there's so many tracks you can race at. I mean, how many tracks are close to you?
Yeah, there's 5 or 6 tracks within 100, 200 miles. You know, you can race 2, 3 tracks a day up there.
And you're the leading driver at not 1, not 2, but 3 different tracks, right?
Yes, yep.
And what are those tracks?
Grand River, Woodstock, and London.
Okay. Now, you've had a cup of coffee at WEG on the Mohawk Woodbine Circuit. You got to drive a few there, and you've been in some big races there. Are you thinking about making the switch to WEG full-time pretty soon?
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. It's a lot of fun winning a lot of races, and go down there. It's going to take a while to start winning a lot of races, but hopefully next year, the year after, we'll see. The future has no hope.
Well, when you got started a couple years ago at age 18, your dad supported you, which every father would, help their kid get started. He let you drive a horse named Trail Boss in the Battle of Waterloo, which is a big 2-year-old race up there, and you won. What was the purse for that race?
Yeah, that was a $300,000 race.
That's big.
Yeah,
that's
big. Huge. Yeah.
You feel a lot of pressure driving for your dad in a race like that?
No, I didn't know how much pressure there was, really. It was just a couple of years ago, I was so young, but it was my grandma's horse, homebred, and that's what got me going.
Now, does your dad give you a lot of advice? Does he watch the replays with you and say, maybe you should have sat there, Doug, or you should have pulled here or done this or that, or just let you learn by trial and error?
No, he's the best guy to drive for. He never gives me trouble or tells me what to do, but he'll tell me when I drive one bad, but I usually know, so he's good that way.
And you let him know when he trains one bad too, right?
Yeah, you don't like that, though.
I would imagine not. Well, your biggest win for your father this year was in the Confederation Cup with Aracash Hanover at one of your home tracks, basically Flamborough Downs. That had to be some thrill as well.
Yeah, it's awesome. I've watched that race my whole life, and I was in it last year, and to come back and win it this year, it was awesome.
Couple bumps in the road. Didn't your horse make a break and there was an inquiry on him?
Yeah, he put a few steps in leaving. There was a long inquiry in the winning circle, 10, 15 minutes. And then I did a celebration down by the wire, crossed my lines over in one hand, and that was another inquiry. So we were 15, 20 minutes, and that was a lot of pressure.
Yeah, in Ontario, you have to keep a line in each hand. You can't whip the horse one-handed. And even though you were just celebrating and waving the whip, the judges were going to fine you for that, weren't they?
Yeah, ended up we won the appeal, and there's no fine, no suspension.
All right, so Aracash Hanover, you won that big race up in Canada. Then you got to drive in perhaps one of the biggest races of all for the Ontario set in America. And, that's the Little Brown Jug in Delaware, Ohio.
Yeah, that was another thrill of my year. It's just been great. That race, obviously, I've watched my whole life. I've been there a couple times, and that's the big show.
And you really didn't have a chance to get involved either, did you?
No, I did 8-hole, and he actually made front, and got some. Kyle Major made a break just past the half, kind of screwed him up a little bit, but 8-hole, and it's tough. Them are great horses.
Yeah, definitely. And you beat a great horse with Ericash Hanover in the Windy City Pace just about 3 weeks ago. That was one more lap. Tell us about that race. You were on the lead. John Campbell had razzle-dazzle in the 2-hole and couldn't hold him and pulled on you about passing the stands the first time.
Yeah, we left out of there, and we lined up 1, 2, 7, and one more lap at the 7. And just before the half, I could hear John's horse make a little bit of noise. I thought he was in trouble, and we weren't going slow. Not slow, so he ended up pulling the 2-hole and looked over my shoulder. I seen Tim wasn't on his back, so I knew right where he was, right in behind us. So. And
you tried to back into him a little bit and then save it for the stretch time?
Yeah, I just backed into him a little bit, and it worked out great. I backed into him, and our other horse was second over, and he ended up finishing third. And he held off by a head, like one more lap raced huge, and our horse raced great too.
Well, let's see, you're 20, T-Trix 29. Did you look over at him and say, hey, I think I beat you, old man?
Well, I put that picture, there's a good picture of me and him on Facebook. I made sure I tagged him in it.
Now, the heck of it is, Ericash Hanover might not be the best 3-year-old in your dad's stable. He won a Meadowlands Pacey Limb with OK Commander, went lame before the final. What's the status with that horse?
Well, he just started back jogging this month, but Dad always thought that other one was better, and he showed it here in the Meadowlands Pace how good he was in the elimination, but ended up breaking down right after. But so they just started back with him this month.
Well, one thing that's pretty cool about racing in Ontario, you're 20 years old, and one of the other young driving stars is a good friend of yours. That's Scott Zeron, son of the famous WEG regular Rick Zeron, and you guys have actually done some promotional videos together. That had to be kind of fun, huh?
Yeah, Grand River, they did a good job there. They did a pretty good commercial, but it's a lot of fun. Everything I do, he does. Everything he does, I do. So
he pretty much copies what you do, right? You're the ringleader, and he just...
Yeah, I lead the pack.
Yeah. Well, you guys are 20 years old. You're making an absolute ton of money racing horses. I've figured up your 5% this year, about $225,000. Have you bought any, like, fancy sports cars, or what'd you spend it on?
No, not yet. Actually, we looked at a car today, so... just try to put as much away as you can, and try to save. You never know how long it's going to last.
Okay, 20 years old, driving star. How's things going with the ladies? You got to be a big hit, right, with the teenage set?
Yeah, it's really come together the last couple of years.
I bet it has. Well, let me ask you about one horse you've got in tonight. I could ask you about your other drives. Most of them you've never seen, though. But in the 6th race, you've got your dad's horse, number 1, Mr. Cooley. The horse has got to be all right. He's made $130,000 this year. They had Lasix tonight. What's he doing down here, and what's the story with him?
Well, he got real good at the start of this year, and he kind of leveled off just recently. The last 2 or 3 weeks, he's been in against really tough horses. And I think he maybe has been bleeding a little bit, so they threw him on Lasix, and he don't mind the whip either, so it's maybe a good spot for him down here. And he likes a half mile, maybe try Yonkers next time. So.
Is that an adjustment for you to come to the States where you can actually encourage the horse with the whip and don't have to keep a line on each hand? Is that hard to get used to?
Yeah, it was a little bit last night, and I get more used to it again today, but I'll have to change back my style for Monday.
Doug McNair, 1 win away from 1,000 career at 20 years old. He will be the youngest driver to reach that mark. Hopefully it'll be tonight here at the Big M. Thanks so much for joining us. Will we see you here next week?
I hope so. We'll see how the night goes.
Okay, well, you did pretty well last night with not that much stock. You got a little more power tonight. I think you'll be just fine. Doug, thanks for joining us. We'll take a quick timeout, and Darren Zochelli, pinch hitting for Bob Hollywood Hayden, will join us in the air chair, so stay tuned.